So way back in 1864, a man named James Trane and his family immigrated from Norway to the United States of America. They finally settled in Wisconsin, and they were here to live the American dream. Well, from 1864 to 1885, Mr. Trane worked for a plumbing company as a plumber slash pipe fitter. Well, he got the reputation of being a hell of a plumber. So in 1885, he decided that, hey, you know what? I'm here to live the American dream, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So he decided, I'm going to go to work for myself. So he did. Well, the thing about Mr. Trane was he was not just a plumber, he was a pretty inventive guy. And back in the day, they had some boilers, and and he felt like he could improve on the boilers of the time. So he did. He invented a new steam boiler that was a lot more efficient, easier to install, blah blah blah, and he named it the Trane vapor heating system. Well, he did pretty well with that thing, and his plumbing company. So in 1910, his son Reuben graduated from the University of Wisconsin with his degree in mechanical engineering, and he joined his dad in the family business, like all sons should. So they were off and running. So that happened in 1910. So in 1913, they decided, man, we're on to something great here, and we need to incorporate so we can save ourselves if we need to. So therefore, the Trane company was born in 1913, and they're celebrating their 100th year this year. So in 1916, they've done really well with that that boiler that Mr. Trane had invented. So they finally decided that they were pretty much out of the plumbing company, the plumbing business, and they were going to focus all their attention on the manufacturing part of it. So they did, and so I guess they manufactured valves and other kind of stuff along with the boilers. And in 1923, Reuben decided, well, you know what? There's got to be a better way for there's got to be a more efficient way to heat other than these little cast iron radiators that we're using today. So he started working on a new type of radiator. And so in 1925, his dream became reality, and he invented a new type of radiator. So that went on, for a while, and they were doing really well still. And then in 1931, a few years later, the first Trane air conditioner was unveiled, and it was called the Trane Unit Cooler. That's as far as I went really with the history of Trane, other than being able to tell you that Reuben Trane became the president of the Trane company in 1916 and continued to stay the president until 1951. In 1951, he retired as the president and became the chairman of the board of the Trane company until he died in 1954. And that's really as far as I went with the history, because that's all I really cared about knowing about him. So anyway, so now that you know the history and the American dream part and all that other stuff, that leads me to this video of why I don't sell Trane. And I'm going to start the video by saying, if you have a Trane, you have a good piece of equipment. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not here to bash the equipment. What I'm here to do is to talk about the company policy, or the corporate policy, that makes small guys like us, like me, and many, many more of us out there, they just don't like us. They don't care about us. They wish we weren't around. and now that's my opinion, but you know. So anyway, so a few years ago, I met with a Trane salesman because I was kind of like, well, maybe I should really consider selling them. So we meet for breakfast one day, and he started telling me about the policies and what I had to do to become a dealer, so I'm listening to his speech and telling me that number one, I have to buy $75,000 worth of equipment from him a year, or my account gets closed. I'm no longer a dealer if I don't. And I'm like, well, what about, I'm a little guy, small guy, and I'm not chasing that kind of work. I primarily do service, and if I find a piece of bad equipment, or find a piece of equipment bad, I replace it. So I'm not buying $75,000 worth of equipment a year because I'm just not chasing that kind of work. So that was number one. Number two was that I had to sell at a certain price point, and if I got caught selling under that price point, that I would get in trouble, I guess you would say. I don't know what they would do to me other than closing my account or not let me sell their stuff anymore. So that was number two. And number three really was, I just don't want to marry a manufacturer and have them tell me what to do. So in those couple of things right there that the salesman had said, I was like, well, I'm not really losing in the deal. The homeowner is actually the one that loses in the deal because, let's face it, everybody knows Trane. Everybody knows Trane because of the advertising dollar that's spent on them. Not because they're any better, because I guarantee you, there's not one of you watching this video that can actually 100% tell me they have ever walked in a building or a place that is conditioned. You can't tell me that you can tell when you walk in the door that that place is cooled by a Trane, a Lennox, a Carrier, a Goodman, a Nordine, a Rheem, a Rude. You just can't tell me you could tell the difference in the air because of the type of equipment that somebody has. So anyway, so the homeowner is actually the one that loses if they want Trane, but us little guys can't sell it. But there is a way around it. You can become an American Standard dealer. It's a little easier to become an American Standard dealer. You still have to sign a contract, and if somebody has to vouch for you, it's almost like a country club. And when I think about it, I think about these guys smoking cigars, sitting in a country club meeting, laughing and joking and having a good time. One of them just won the pot because they're playing poker. One of them just won the pot and he's smiling, he's laughing, and everybody else is laughing because they're all having a good time. So it kind of reminds me, that's what I think about when I think about Trane dealers. Because it's almost like they have a monopoly on the air conditioning, or they think they do. But yeah, the country club thing, that's what I think about. Because I hear this thing about, it's hard to stop a train. Well, to me, because I'm out there working on them all the time, it's really no harder to stop a train than it is to stop a little girl riding a tricycle. They're just as easy, they die just as easy as a Goodman. And I can prove that in my scrap pile. I've got more Trane outdoor units set in my scrap pile than I got anything else. And they have their Freon leaks too. As a matter of fact, I just did a video with 5 package units and showed you a Freon leak. Now, of course, it was 19 years old. But I don't know how long that unit's been leaking. It may have been leaking for 10 years and somebody just keep putting Freon in it. That was the first time I'd ever been there. So the product's really not any better, you know, than any other piece of equipment. So, you know, that people have, you know, I've heard all kind of stuff. I've heard that, you know, talking about other pieces of equipment, that somebody would say, I wouldn't cool my doghouse with that thing. Well, really? Really? Are you really going to stoop to that level? And I hear all these other people, yeah, Trane's the best there is, Trane's the best there is. But that's because that's what the people they work for sell. Guaranteed tomorrow, if their boss quit selling Trane and they started selling Goodman, they would be saying, yeah, Goodman's the best there ever is, or ever was. And they'd be smiling, 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 saying it too. Because that's what the people you work for sells. So anyway, alright, so I've got a buddy that used to sell Trane. He's a single guy just like me. And he walked into Trane one day with a warranty part. Well, he went to go take his part up to the counter, and they said, well, hey, by the way, did you know your account was closed? And he said, well, why would my account be closed? Well, you didn't buy $75,000 worth of stuff from us last year, so they closed your account. He said, well, you better open it because I've got a part here on a customer's that has no air. So I need my part. So he got his part. His next order of business was he went straight over to the American Standard sales place and opened an account there. Now, he's happy over there. And I've got to say that for you guys that sell American Standard, not too long ago, American Standard was #1 in Consumer Reports. And in my opinion, the reason I think that is because the guys that are putting the American Standard in were trying to sell Trane, or did go talk to Trane and couldn't sell it because, you know, they're funny. They don't want the small guy cherry picking against the big guy, and then so it's just a messed up policy because, like I said, guys like me are not in any shape, form, or fashion competing against the big guys. We're just not. Because I'm going to tell you something. Those Trane salesmen, they do a really good job. And I know it to be true. Man, I tell you what, when they leave a person's house, and if you sell Trane, if you're a Trane salesman and you're watching this, I gotta give you props, because I have never been behind one of you guys and closed a sale. Just because, man, when you guys leave and those people go to sleep, that male homeowner is laying there just like this, and instead of counting sheep, he's counting little Trane units jumping over a fence. And the woman, she's laying there next to her husband, and you would think that she was dreaming about her new boyfriend, but she's dreaming about Trane. So anyway, so the small little guy, he can't sell it. So what he does is he goes over to American Standard, and like I said, they were #1 in Consumer Reports. And I think, and this is just my opinion, I think that the reason they were #1 was not because of the product, because like I said, the product is no better than anybody else's. And if you've got that stuck in your mind and you're telling people it is, you're wrong. The reason I think that they were #1 is because the quality of the dealer and the guy putting it in, he was doing a much better job of putting it in, so it was giving them a better reputation. So that's my thinking about why they were #1. Because like I said, the product's not any better. Yeah, they got a little thicker metal, and you're gonna say, well, what about the compressor? Well, truth is, Copeland's got a lot to do with that compressor. But anyway, um, so that's in a nutshell about the $75,000 deal. So that is 100% accurate. Well, the next thing is price point. Well, if Trane, and I'll tell you why I know Trane doesn't like dealers like us, because of that price point deal too. Because they don't want us undercutting the big guys. Well, I'm going to give you a good example about how they love the big guys and they don't like the small guy. Here in Atlanta, we got several big Trane dealers. And you got dealer A and dealer B. I'm just going to use these two because they're really close to where I'm at, and they're a perfect good example of the whole thing. Well, dealer A is one of those companies you see all over TV, and dealer B is too. And dealer B has a baseball field named after them. They went through all the steps and they got a baseball field named after them. But dealer A is that type of dealer that here in a little bit, when it gets warm outside and they're starting to get a ton of calls, they're going to be calling Enterprise and renting a bunch of trucks. And they're going to be slapping magnets on those trucks like you would not believe. And I've seen it. I drove by and kind of laughed at them. Man, slapping magnets on trucks, and they're going to be filling those trucks with inexperienced guys. Well, what dealer A does is he cuts everybody's throat. He cuts my throat on a basement finish, and I don't know how the hell he's doing it, because I look at the prices of what I buy and I know how much it costs to do this job, and I know the prices that he's charging to do the job. Well, anyway, so dealer B went to Trane and said, look, dealer A is cutting everybody's throats. What are you going to do about it? Well, Trane was just like, we're not doing anything about it. Well, dealer B was spending $10 million a year with Trane. So dealer B said, well, if you're not going to do something about it, we're going to take our $10 million and we're going to go somewhere else. And they did. And they went over to Carrier. Now, they're not getting any better price with selling Carrier than they was Trane. But you know what? They told Trane to stick it. Because if they're not going to stand by their policy about a certain price point, then if it's good enough for me to sell at a certain price, shouldn't it be good enough for dealer B? But you know, that is business, and all is fair in business, and whatever. If he thinks that's right, then let him do it. So anyway, so props to Carrier, because I'm going to talk about Carrier a little bit, not much, but Carrier used to have the same policy as Trane. We're not going to sell to the little guys because we want more money. Well, Carrier has figured out that the little guys like me and a bunch of us out there, there's more a market of the little guys out there than there is dealer A. And besides that, dealer A, people like dealer A is nothing but a bunch of crybabies. If they think they're getting screwed, they're going to cry and cry and cry, and because they spend all that money with them, they're going to expect results. Well, I expect results too. If I have a problem, I expect results. That's just business. I mean, that's just the way it goes. But anyway, so props to Carrier for changing your policy about selling to the small guy. Matter of fact, my Carrier salesman, he treats me good. That's why I have Carrier on the door. So that's the price point argument. Alright, for the last part of the video, I'm going to debunk a couple of the myths. I already kind of touched on it a while ago about Trane, hard to stop a train. We've all seen that video out there where where there was a flood. I guess it was when Katrina came through, and that train was out there just spinning and spinning and spinning. And it was almost all the way to the top with water. It wasn't because it was a train. Any unit, it was just the right conditions. But, you know, it was funny. It was cool to see it. But I was in the Trane parts house the other day picking up a blower motor. It must have had gold windings on the thing. It was expensive. But a guy come in with a compressor, and I heard the counter guy said, "That's the third compressor that's been in that unit." And this was under warranty. And I'm thinking, he said, "There must be something wrong. You think there's something wrong with the unit?" And I was thinking, well, I don't think it was the unit. I think it's probably the install. Now, a Trane guy put that unit in, so why would it have 3 compressors under warranty? So, you know, like I said, when these units come off the line at the factory, they're made to run for 15 to 20 years. I mean, truly, if they're maintained right, all these units out there are going to run. You know, yeah, there's some leaks, and you know what? Leaks aren't just contained to one manufacturer. My scrap pile has a lot of coils in it, and it's not any one brand. They all leak. If you really want to know the truth, don't let anybody tell you different. Because personally, I don't really care what somebody has at their house. I don't care if it's a Trane, Carrier, Linux. They're just the same as Trane. Worse, actually. I walked in the supply house and talked to one of the Trane or the Linux salesmen, and I said, "Hey, dude, you want to talk about selling Linux?" And he said, "Well, can't really say a Linux because you got a Linux dealer up there where you're at, but we can sell you airflow." I was like, man, if I wanted to sell airflow, I would have asked you to sell airflow. But he's still under that impression that I'm competing against that big Linux dealer, and I'm not. I'm truly not. And most guys aren't, because we're face to face with customers. So if you want to lose some money, because if a customer says, "Hey, you sell Linux," I can say, "Well, yeah, but you know, that's your own deal. If you want to make those policies," so then I tell them no, but you know, why would you want to buy them? And then I've actually called Linux and been on hold with them for 45 freaking minutes looking for a part. Now, why would I? And I just, it's something a little different than Trane does than Linux. If you deal with Linux, you know what I'm talking about. You got to call this 1-800 number, and it sends you some call center. And then they look at the store you're talking about going to, and then they say, yeah, they have the part, or no, they don't have the part. You just can't call the place, the parts house, your local store, and talk to them. You got to talk to the 1-800 number. And they're one place in the United States. And I don't know if they realize, but there's 50 states in the United States. So how can one little call center keep up with all those dealers? I mean, 45 minutes, and that wasn't one time. That's been multiple times. So anyway, but Trane, I can at least call their store and talk to somebody in the store. Yeah, anyway, so they all break, and that was one with the compressor. The other with the, I just actually talked to somebody not too long ago, and they had a 2007 Trane condenser, an XB13, and he put Freon in it, and then the guy called him back a week later, and he this time he cut everything loose and tested everything by itself, and everything held. He put 250 pounds of nitrogen in it, everything held, but the condenser had 94 pounds in it the next day. And so anyway, so that was just talking about kind of debunking the myth about Trane being the best. Well, I'm here to tell you, you know, yeah, they got stronger metal and but honestly, they have to meet the same standards as everybody else out there. Um, they all have to come off the line, and if they say they're 13 SEER, they have to be 13 SEER. Um, every unit has Copeland compressors in it now, from the cheapest one to the most expensive one. Um, you know, they all buy from, everybody's motors are made in Japan. Their circuit boards are made in Mexico. Um, and there's a lot of coils. I'll tell you about a coil here in a second, coil story. Um, a lot of the coils are made in Mexico. Um, the carrier distributor here last year was laughing at Trane. Because guess what? Trane dealers couldn't get Trane coils. So the carrier distributor took a picture of their warehouse with all their coils. And you know that old Got Milk commercial you used to see? Well, that was the title of that picture. Got coils. So last year, Trane couldn't even keep up with the amount of coils they needed to sell. And people were waiting to buy a coil. Now, as a Trane dealer, you think I would want to wait? Hell no, I'm going somewhere else. So anyway, that's just my little spiel about why I don't sell Trane. Thanks and have a great day.